Picture this. You're sitting on the couch. The TV is humming in the background. Your mind is wandering. You're endlessly scrolling on your phone. Then, suddenly, you feel a gentle, distinct weight drop onto your arm. You look down. It's your dog. They are staring right at you, unblinking, and they've placed a single heavy paw directly on your bare skin. It's a moment every single dog owner knows perfectly. It is a highly common behavior. It is intensely intimate. And almost everyone completely misinterprets exactly what is happening in that split second. Ask the internet what this physical gesture means, and you'll get two incredibly popular, fiercely defended answers. The first, it's a dominance play, that by placing their paw over your limb, your dog is asserting their alpha status. They are claiming you. They are resource guarding you from the rest of the household. The second guess, they are trying to pet you back, that they feel your emotional state, understand the human concept of a caress, and want to comfort you. Both of these sound highly logical. Both of them are completely wrong. Let's destroy the dominance myth right now. The alpha pack theory was based entirely on observations of captive, unrelated wolves in the 1940s. It has been thoroughly, mercilessly debunked by modern ethologists. Dogs do not view humans as members of their own species, and they absolutely do not structure interspecies relationships via physical dominance. As detailed by researchers at the University of Bristol, human-directed pawing has absolutely nothing to do with resource holding potential. It is an affiliative behavior, a social bind, not a power grab. And what about the empathy myth? Are they petting you back? Behavioral neuroscience tells a completely different story. While dogs do possess emotional contagion, a primitive form of empathy, pawing is fundamentally driven by Thorndike's law of effect, operant conditioning. When your dog initiates physical contact with that paw, you almost always respond. You give vocal praise, you scratch their ears, you look at them. Your dog registers a massive neurochemical reward. They aren't trying to pet you. They are actively hacking your nervous system to solicit resources. Because this isn't just psychology. It's heavy biological chemistry. When that paw makes contact with your skin, a massive, invisible biological event triggers in both of your bodies, simultaneously. This interspecies synchronization is heavily mediated by your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, your HPA axis. To prove it, we have to look at groundbreaking research from Azabu University's Department of Animal Science in Japan. They wanted to know exactly what happens in the blood when a dog initiates tactile touch with a human. Researchers utilized a rigorous 30-minute interaction paradigm. Owners engaged in typical household behaviors, gazing, talking, and tactile interactions like petting and receiving that classic paw on the arm. Then they collected urine samples from both the humans and the canines to measure oxytocin concentrations, the love hormone. The findings were scientifically staggering. Dogs engaging in sustained gaze and tactile affiliation experienced a 130% increase in urinary oxytocin levels. But the humans? The human owners experienced a massive 300% increase. The paw is not a cute trick. It is a biological button, a highly evolved physical mechanism designed entirely to lock both species into a mutual neurochemical feedback loop. But it goes deeper than love or attachment. That physical pressure from their paw is literally keeping you alive. It alters your internal organs. A pivotal study out of the University of Skövde in Sweden proved that this specific physical contact triggers an immediate systemic autonomic nervous system shift. Within 15 to 30 minutes of interaction, your body fundamentally changes. The Swedish researchers drew venous blood samples before, during, and after physical contact. They found that sustained touch triggers a statistically significant drop in cortisol, your body's primary stress hormone, in both dogs and humans. At the exact same time, it induces a parasympathetic nervous system shift. Your dog's heart rate plummets. Their heart rate variability increases. A flood of insulin and beta endorphins washes through their brain. The paw on your leg is a somatic catalyst. They are physically anchoring themselves to you to maintain an anxiety-free state. Still don't believe it's pure chemistry? Think it's just a learned habit? Researchers at the University of Tokyo's Department of Cognitive and Behavioral Sciences put this to the ultimate test in a double-blind, placebo-controlled crossover experiment. They administered exogenous oxytocin directly into dogs' noses via a nasal spray. The result? A massive, undeniable surge in the duration and frequency of spontaneous physical contact directed at their owners. Dogs treated with oxytocin pawed their owners significantly more than the placebo group. It is hardwired chemistry. But to understand exactly why the paw is the chosen tool, we have to look 15,000 years into the past. We have to examine their evolutionary trajectory from Pleistocene wolves to the modern domestic dog sleeping on your couch. In wild wolves, pawing is a critical survival behavior, but it is primarily seen in pups. Juvenile wolves will aggressively paw at the mouths and muzzles of adult pack members to solicit the regurgitation of food. It is a desperate, frantic plea for life-saving resources in the wild. Domestic dogs, however, are a highly paedomorphic species. This means that human artificial selection has caused them to retain juvenile physiological and behavioral traits deep into adulthood. Over millennia of selective breeding, that desperate, juvenile, food-soliciting paw gesture of the wild wolf pup evolved. It transformed. It became a generalized attention and care-soliciting signal in adult dogs. And instead of being directed at older wolves, it was redirected entirely at humans. You are the recipient of an ancient survival reflex. And the burning desire to execute this reflex is written directly into their DNA. In 2017, evolutionary biologists at Princeton University discovered something that shattered our understanding of canine hypersociability. They looked deep into the genome and found specific structural variants. Transposon insertions located precisely on dog chromosome 6. These genetic disruptions occur in the GTF2I and GTF2IRD1 genes. And the implications of this specific mutation are absolutely mind-blowing when compared to human genetics. In human genetics, deletions in this exact same chromosomal region cause something called Williams-Beuren syndrome. It is a rare condition characterized by exceptional, indiscriminate hypersociability. Individuals with WBS possess a deep, profound, burning drive for physical and social contact. This precise genetic mutation actively drove the evolutionary divergence of dogs from wolves. Your dog places its paw on you because its very cellular structure compels it to. They biologically cannot stop themselves from seeking out your physical touch. The evolutionary timeline for this physical bonding is permanently etched into the archaeological record. At the Ain Malaha site in northern Israel, dating back roughly 12,000 years to the Natufian culture, researchers excavated a tomb. Inside, they found a human buried alongside a puppy. The human's hand was carefully, intentionally placed so it rested directly on the pup. Even in death, the tactile connection between our two species was viewed as sacred, as necessary for the journey into the afterlife. Similarly, look at the Bonn Oberkassel dog discovered in Germany. Buried 14,000 years ago with a human couple, the skeletal remains of this dog showed signs of having survived the canine distemper virus. In the Paleolithic era, surviving distemper was a biological impossibility on its own. That dog only lived through intense, hands-on, physical nursing and care from its humans. These archaeological sites prove that reciprocal physical affection has been selectively advantageous for over 12,000 years. We survive because we touch each other. Which brings us to the ultimate paradox, and the most vital part of this video, the clinical warning. Because pawing is such a profoundly ingrained, highly reinforced, genetically mandated behavior, its sudden disappearance is a massive, screaming red flag. As any elite veterinary researcher will tell you, when a deeply learned operant behavior abruptly stops overnight, it almost always indicates an underlying pathology. If your dog, who normally paws you for attention, suddenly stops initiating that physical contact, pay very close attention. First, consider hidden musculoskeletal pain. Lifting one front paw requires a dog to shift 60% of its body weight onto the contralateral forelimb, the opposite leg. If your dog suffers from undetected elbow dysplasia, shoulder osteoarthritis, or carpal joint degradation, this sudden weight shift induces acute, blinding nociceptive pain. To avoid the pain, the dog simply suppresses the affiliative behavior. The American Animal Hospital Association specifically notes that changes in spontaneous social interactions are among the earliest indicators of chronic joint pain. Long before you ever see a visible limp, the pawing will stop. But the warnings get even darker. In senior dogs, a sudden lack of pawing, leaning, or soliciting attention can indicate the devastating onset of canine cognitive dysfunction, canine dementia. CCD is caused by the brutal accumulation of neurotoxic beta-amyloid plaques in the brain cortex and hippocampus. As these plaques spread, they literally destroy learned behaviors and memory recall. The dog forgets the operant conditioning that binds you together. Clinicians use a specific diagnostic metric called the DISHAA assessment tool to diagnose canine dementia. The I stands for interactions, a statistical decline in spontaneous social interactions, like failing to greet the owner or ceasing learned affiliative gestures like pawing, is a primary diagnostic hallmark of cognitive decline. A clinical cohort study at the University of Sydney showed that a failure to initiate physical contact was statistically correlated with advancing stages of beta-amyloid deposition in the brain. Finally, we must look at proprioception, your dog's spatial awareness. Pawing requires highly tuned, fine motor control. If your dog places its paw on you, but the paw is knuckled, meaning it is resting on the top of the paw rather than the soft pads, it is a severe neurological emergency. If the movement is suddenly uncoordinated or weak, it indicates a disruption in the peripheral nervous system or spinal cord. This is commonly caused by cervical intervertebral disc disease, cervical IVDD. Never ignore a change in how they touch you. So the next time you are sitting quietly on the couch and you feel that familiar, gentle, heavy weight drop onto your arm, take a moment to truly look down. You aren't just looking at a needy pet begging for a piece of your sandwich. You aren't looking at an alpha trying to dominate your living room. You are witnessing a genetic and evolutionary masterpiece. A behavior forged in the harsh winters of the Pleistocene era, refined over 15,000 years of selective pedomorphosis, and encoded directly into canine chromosome 6. It is a 14,000-year-old survival instinct, fueled by an unstoppable oxytocin feedback loop, perfectly designed to lower your heart rate, drop your cortisol, and bind your two species together through the sheer power of chemistry. They paw you because their biology demands it. Now, what is the strangest, most demanding way your dog asks for your attention? Let me know down in the comments. And be sure to subscribe because next week we decode exactly what it means when your dog sighs at you. And the science behind it is even stranger than you'd expect.